Senior politics reporter who is already in Bloemfontein for us. A very good afternoon to you, Ziyanda. We saw there Mr. Dukwana quite adamant in one of the statements that he was saying is that the ANC NEC should compel Ace Magashule as well as his co-accused to step down. More on that.
Absolutely, Tammy. And one of the things then that Mxolisi Dukwana has said this afternoon, he's cleared up this issue that he says has been peddled, that he and Mr. Ace Magashule were once close at one stage or the other. I asked him why then he should be considered a legitimate voice to speak on behalf of those victims of that doomed asbestos project. But actually, I've got him with me now, Tammy, and thank you so much for your time, Mr. Dukwana. I think it would be improper of me not to start off by clarifying for the viewers who exactly you represent, because there's been some criticism to say, well, there's actually a formal ANC Free State structure, and we know that there are others who are operating under the ban of RET forces. You, as Mxolisi Dukwana, who has given you your mandate?
As early as 2012, we have been raising issues about the violation of the guidelines, the constitution of the ANC in installing a PEC. And we have been raising these matters, and in 2012, the Constitutional Court ruled in our favor, and unfortunately the NEC of the ANC at the time continued giving a middle finger to the Constitutional Court by allowing the same PEC that was nullified to act as the PTT. We continued raising these issues because we believe that the constitution of the ANC, the values of the organization, should actually be respected by every person. And we represent members of the ANC who believe that we have a new culture that is emerging in the ANC, where people are doing things with impunity and there are no consequences. And we cannot sit by simply because we are not elected in the provincial structures. We are members of this society. We live in a social age, and we have social leaders. And many of the people that we are representing and we're speaking on behalf are these social leaders, members of the ANC, and this is what we are doing, and this is what we are representing.
I suppose another question then would be, you're saying you've been speaking out on these issues for some time now, but a criticism that could be leveled against you is that when you were still in a position of power to deal with these issues, to possibly have an even more louder voice, so to speak, that you could have addressed them then.
We did everything at the time within our powers inside the organization when we were in the leadership. We raised a number of issues, and unfortunately that led to the ANC, the PEC, being divided into two. And always you would have the chairperson who would decide, because of the chair, which side he believes. It mattered not whether the arguments that we were raising were correct or not. And this is the unfortunate reality in the Free State. We are living in the Free State, we have what we call toxic illusion. And this is actually a game, a very unfortunate game, toxic game, politically, that has been played in this, where you have an environment that is created that is toxic, and we have followers that also are participating actively in this toxicity, and the leadership that is toxic. And with that in mind, it is very difficult for members of the ANC inside and those of the community outside to stand up and raise issues, because raising this, some of the people find themselves out of the jobs and many other things happening to them.
Just lastly from my side, what is it then about the current environment? You've just said there's what you call toxic illusion, but what is it about the environment in the Free State right now that many have described as more emboldened stance from the likes of you, and you protested outside Thule House at some stage last year? how would you describe then the current political environment that is seeing more people such as yourself coming out then to actually speak out against this former premier?
We know what the damage that the former premier has caused in the Free State. And now that he has assumed some senior position, we feel that we cannot allow the same damage to go and take place at a national space. And as a result, we are committed and determined to make sure that these things do not happen. You know, when you have a psychopath, if you like, assuming a leadership position and going up, you must be worried as a society because they build their own world view. And to them, what we see as wrong and what society believes to be wrong, a psychopath, a sociopath, a narcissist does not see that as being wrong, and they thrive in hurting other people and destroying the organization's values, etc., and creating their own culture. It is for that we believe that South Africa deserves better, and the Free State also deserved better, and we might have failed in raising these matters before, but we think we cannot just sit down and allow this to continue anymore.
Well, there you have it, Tammy. Some strong words coming from Mxolisi Dukwana, in essence describing Ace Magashule as a psychopath, sociopath, and a narcissist, saying that, in fact, the reason why that they are speaking out now and maybe were not able to do so before is because they cannot allow Magashule to continue with his warped sense of a worldview, if you will, to continue at a national level now that he serves as ANC Secretary-General. So tomorrow then, we're expecting two groupings, three if you will, to actually arrive outside the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. Last time those that Dukwana says he represents did not actually appear outside to show solidarity for the asbestos victims, saying that they did not want to contravene the COVID-19 regulations. And so it will be very interesting then to see who turns out tomorrow and how that particular process will be managed, given the fact that last time we saw running battles between police and those supporting the ANC Secretary-General.
Ziyanda, there's a very important question that you asked Mr. Dukwana there, as in where does he get his mandate? Who is he representing? Won't you break that down for us? Because there are some in the ANC, in the Free State, who would say that Mr. Dukwana does not speak on their behalf. Who does he represent?
Absolutely, Tammy, and that's exactly why I started off my interview by asking who has given him his mandate, given the fact that, you know, many would say that there are many ANCs within the ANC. Dukwana is aligned to a grouping that has actually taken then the legitimacy of the current Provincial Executive Committee to court. In fact, that matter was before the Supreme Court of Appeal this past Monday, where they're still then seeking to have that conference nullified and declared unlawful. We know that the previous courts did declare this. However, their main bone of contention right now is to say that the NEC, even after a previous court appearance, a court ruling, I should say, Tammy, they did not convene BGM's branch general meetings in an orderly manner, but two, they're aggrieved with the fact that Ace Magashule, now as Secretary General, was overseeing the process of actually convening these BGMs, therefore saying that this still does not make the current Provincial Executive Committee legitimate, and in fact it still needs to be declared unlawful. So Dukwana is aligned to that particular grouping. So as you heard during that press briefing earlier on, to say that they're not just only speaking on behalf of the victims of the asbestos project, but they are business people whom he says are also funding them, because there was another question that I posed to them that have been negatively impacted by the tenure of Ace Magashule in his time as Premier of the Free State.
Much Ziyanda for that update as our senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo in Bloemfontein.